You added headcount. Your approval queue, it got longer. Priya, she was running 35 engineers and couldn't figure out why she was working harder than she did at 5. I'm going to show you exactly what broke and the 3-layer fix that cleared her PR graveyard under a week. See, I've worked with engineering orgs from Series A through IPO, and I've watched this exact stall hit at the same headcount every single time. I know what it looks like from the inside because I've been the CTO standing in the middle of it. Here's what I'm about to show you. 3 components. Most CTOs nail 1 or 2. The one they miss consistently, that's the one that keeps decisions off your desk for good. We'll get there. When I've walked you through all 3 and shown you how Priya used them, in this video, it's done. Here's the number nobody runs when they're celebrating a new hire. 5 engineers, 10 communication lines. That's manageable. 20 engineers, 190. You didn't triple your coordination problem going from 5 to 20. You multiplied it by 19. Every one of those lines is a potential decision that routes to you. That's the coordination tax. It hits your calendar before it ever hits your roadmap. So let's get back to Priya. 14 engineers became 35 in only 18 months. On paper, more than twice the firepower. In reality, sprint velocity dropped 40%. And Priya was logging 80-hour weeks just to keep things from stopping completely. 2 moments define what broke. The first, the PR graveyard. 15 open pull requests sitting untouched while Priya burned Tuesday and Wednesday in back-to-back status meetings. You see, the code was written. The work was done, but nothing shipped because there was no system move it forward without her sign-off. Second, the architecture freeze. A mid-level team needed to approve a straightforward database schema change. Nobody felt that they had the authority to call it, so they stopped. 3 days, just waiting. A decision that should have taken 30 minutes locked an entire team because the routing rule, it didn't exist. Those are experienced engineers doing exactly what the system trained them to do. Wait for that person at the top. See, without a routing structure, every question, it defaults upward. You become human middleware, manually processing decisions that should never have reached you. So, what does the fix actually look like? Not a culture conversation, an architecture. 3 components, and you need all 3. See, decision rights, those come first. This is the line between who ships autonomously and who needs a second set of eyes before anything moves. If that line doesn't exist in writing, your team, they draw it for themselves. And they almost always draw it too conservatively because the downside of overstepping, it feels so much worse than the cost of waiting. That's why Priya's schema change sat for 3 days. Nobody knew if they owned the call. Domain boundaries, they come second. Think of these like load-bearing walls. Every team needs a clearly defined operational perimeter. The scope of work they own completely, the adjacent systems they influence, and the things they never touch without a structural conversation. Clear boundaries mean teams stop asking permission and start making calls. Escalation triggers are the 3rd layer, and this is the one most frameworks miss. If everything feels urgent, nothing has a real priority. An escalation trigger is a specific, pre-agreed definition of what actually constitutes an emergency versus a decision that already has an owner. If it's a true emergency, it can survive a definition. If it can't survive a definition, it was never an emergency. The artifact that holds all 3 together is the decision domain matrix. You can build it in Notion or ClickUp in just an afternoon. 3 columns per team. what they ship without asking, what they flag before shipping, and what they escalate. Plain language, no ambiguity. When a mid-level engineer looks at that matrix, the schema change question, poof, disappears. Because the answer is already there. There's a law in software architecture that you already know. Conway's law. Your communication structure mirrors your system architecture. If every decision routes through you, so will your code. The org chart becomes the dependency graph. And that's not a metaphor, it's a technical reality. The decision domain matrix is how you rewire both at the same time. I've seen teams that run this system consistently see PR cycle time drop from days to under 4 hours. Direct escalations to the CTO were cut by half. Not because the engineers got better. No. It's because the routing rules, they finally exist. But you see, the matrix alone, it's not going to serve you. There's a mindset that has to break first. See, and this is the part nobody wants to say out loud. You hired well. You have talented engineers. They're waiting in line because you never built the structure that tells them what they own. That's an architectural failure, and it belongs to the person running the org, not the people inside it. You know, you're still acting like a senior developer who accidentally acquired a massive team. The habits that made you indispensable at 5 people, deep technical involvement, the instinct to review everything, the comfort of being the final word, those exact habits are grinding your org to a halt at 20. You don't have a team of 20 engineers. You have 20 highly paid people standing in a queue waiting for you to process their next move. At 10 engineers, you could still be the smartest person in the room on any given technical call. That was fine. At 10, the coordination overhead was manageable and your involvement was genuinely load-bearing. At 20, that math's gone. Your job now isn't to be the best engineer in the building. Your job is to build the machine that builds the product. The identity shift isn't optional. It's the only move that gets you out of this. If your calendar is full and nothing is shipping, you aren't leading. You're the bottleneck. Those are different jobs, and only one of them scales. Go back to Priya. After the decision domain matrix went in, the PR graveyard didn't slow down. It cleared. Engineers stopped waiting for approval on calls they already owned. The schema change question that locked a team for 3 days, it resolved in under an hour because the matrix told them exactly who owned the database layer and what qualified as a flag versus an escalation. Priya stopped working 80-hour weeks, not because the problems got easier, but because the problems finally had owners who weren't her. She started her day at 8 and finished at 4:30. She didn't log in Sunday night to prep the offshore teams Monday because the team had the context they needed without her as the relay node. That's the founder metric, not the PR cycle time, not the escalation count, though those matter. The real signal is whether your org can run a clean week without you in the critical path of every decision. The tool that tells you where you stand is the Decision Latency Audit. Run it across one team for 2 weeks. Track 4 things. Who is making each decision? How long is it set before someone made the call? How far that person is from the actual work, and whether a written rule existed to guide them. You don't need software. A shared spreadsheet is enough to surface the pattern. What you're looking for is concentration. If the same domain is routing decisions through you more than twice a day, that domain doesn't have an owner. It has a manager. And the manager is you by default. That's your first fix. The identity reframe underneath all of this is really simple. Real leadership at scale isn't showing up at 11 p.m. to save the sprint. Any idiot can do that. The harder, less visible work is building a system so the sprint doesn't need saving. One runs on adrenaline, the other on structure. And only one of them works when you have 30 engineers, 50, 100. Control does not scale. clarity does. That's the whole thing. And the component I said most CTOs miss? Escalation triggers. Not because they don't understand urgency, but because they've never forced a definition of it. Once you do, half of the emergencies, they disappear. Because they were never emergencies in the first place. They were just undressed decisions looking for an owner. You now have the full decision domain framework. Decision rights, domain boundaries, escalation triggers. The same three-layer system that pulls a stalled engineering org off the bottleneck and turns headcount into actual output. This week, run the decision latency audit on one team. Find the single domain with no clear owner. That's your starting point. If you want the full operational playbook with a decision domain matrix template already built out, it's on the CTO Edge Substack. Link is in the description. Go get it.